Hey, welcome to the Curious Native Podcast. I'm your host, Tunismakathin, aka Nate. And today I'm going to be covering and tackling the topic of Indian burial ground tropes in film. Um, I'm more so today because it's going to be a part one episode. I do plan on doing a sequel. Going to be covering exactly what this trope is, when was it popularized, who was it popularized by, and how can we do better in cinema. Today's episode isn't really going to be edited too much. I do plan on just letting it go straight through. So if you hear a lot of pauses and things like that, I'm sorry, but I think this is the best way I'm gonna go about it. I am reading some bullet notes that I took. I had to do some research. I wasn't gonna go into here empty-handed. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. This trope was first popularized in films during the 1970s, in my opinion, by the horror movie The Amityville Horror, written by Jay Anson. I'm not exactly sure of the year. I should have got that down, but I didn't. And directed by Stuart Rosenberg in 1979, so I do have that. I think the main question a lot of people would like to know is what is the Indian Burial Ground trope, or IBG? The Indian burial ground trope is a trope specifically in horror that is usually used to explain a haunting, albeit in the expense of native people and lands, which obviously not cool. You can usually see the trope um, I think one of the most famous ones is a pet cemetery, which the burial grounds in that film is exactly that. This trope can, speaking about it being in other films, it can and does vary. It has many variations, but the most common variation, though, usually has a house or a building being erected on indigenous burial grounds or lands, only for paranormal activity to begin. And that paranormal activity is usually explained maybe by a psychic or, I don't know, a priest. I'm thinking of the Amityville Horror specifically because, the Amityville Horror does and has a big influence on this trope. And this trope did exist beforehand. It existed way back during, like, I think the 50s and 60s. And you know what? You could kind of see this trope specifically beginning to fester itself, especially in westerns, like Indians and cowboys, old type films and shows. Why is this trope harmful? Which, I mean, without talking about the obvious, the trope not only spreads harmful stereotypes, but perpetuates and reinforces the idea and outdated notion that indigenous people are mystical, instinct ancient beings prone to baneful practices and evil spirits. Which, I don't know about y'all, but my tribe and my family, and specifically my grandma, is very much, very paranoid and uh, very much wary of baneful practices and magics and just spirits in general that we do not know. So, you know, we don't represent everybody, but most natives I know don't even whistle in their house. So, mm, this trope also furthers the misrepresentation of native history and genocide, specifically the idea that, you know, the way people look at it, the way people look at it, I'm sorry, you could specifically look at, like, the way people view history and in films. Like you look at, like, I'm not gonna touch on this movie too much this episode because I do plan on doing a part two in a couple of weeks. Um, but specifically The Shining and the idea that a lot of people feel the film is a metaphor and analogy for America trying to forget its past of native genocide, which, mm, not only native genocide, but the stealing and exploitation of indigenous lands, and the idea that because these are all native lands. You gotta think about it. One specific area, if you think about it specifically, why would one area be even more haunted than another area? Because that's where the natives buried their loved ones and past relatives. It doesn't really make sense. These are all native lands. Wouldn't they all be haunted? I can't really exactly say how we should fix it, but how we could fix this issue, but I can give a couple ideas. How do filmmakers in cinema go about representing natives in film in a respectful manner? Well, for starters, you could stop using this trope. It doesn't do anybody any good. And secondly, you can start casting indigenous actors, hiring native writers and directors. We want to see native people, indigenous people, making the art they want to make. And the best way that we could see that art is if they're being hired to do it. In my personal opinion, the best way to see, this, I think the best way, in my personal opinion, that we could ever truly get good native representation in film is to support and uplift native film directors and writers and actors. You know, a lot of people will back a studio before they back an actor, and I think that's truly telling. And that's even more so for native actors and black actors. So, support native filmmakers. I'm going to leave it at this note for right now because I do plan on doing a sequel. I have a lot more notes and information. I know this is technically my first episode. I did record another episode that maybe I will release it. It'll be a bonus episode, but for right now, this is what it's gonna be. I'm proud of it. There's not gonna be. I'm not gonna edit this episode. I'm just gonna let it roll. I did want to leave it on a good note on the support native filmmakers because yes, support native filmmakers and support indigenous people and support indigenous stories. We are not, mystical, instinct beings from a past. We are the present and we are here. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Like and subscribe and share, and I'll see you all next time.